meeting, and therefore it'll be recorded and video streamed. If you want to raise an item, as usual, use the raise the hand function, please, and then we can keep some sort of order. And again, if we can make sure that only one person speaks at a time. And when you're speaking, again, please reference the paragraph and page that you're referring to help us all make sure we know where we're looking at. So I'll just do a quick roll call of Cabinet members first, so I don't need to do it myself because obviously I am here. Bev?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Graham?
Yes, Chair.
Alistair Morwood?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. And Adrian?
Evening, Chair.
Thank you. And is Alistair on the call yet, do we know? Is he dialed in? No. Okay, we'll give him another minute. We'll give him another moment as we carry on. So apologies for any absence.
Yeah, I've not received any, Chair.
Thanks, Nina. And
Chair, I'd just like to make apologies for Margaret Franz. She's at the Lancashire Whips meeting.
Thanks, Gordon. No problem. Item 1 is minutes of the meeting Thursday, 10th of December 2020, pages 3 to 6. Are there any issues to raise on the accuracy of the minutes? No, we all seem happy. I can't see any hands going up. That's good. In that case, I mean, obviously, I'll propose the minutes. We get a second to that, please.
I'll second it, Chair.
Thanks, Bev. Okay. I take it that everyone is in favour unless anyone wants to object. If you want to object, raise your hand now. Lovely. Super. Thank you for that. Declarations of any interest? Presume we've not had any. Nope. Silence again. Wonderful. Public item 3, public questions.
Yeah, there's been no public questions received, Chair.
Thank you very much. In that case, we go slowly to item 4, which is Councillor Bradley's item, but again, he doesn't appear to be on the call as yet, which is the Chorley Open Space Sports and Recreation Strategy Action Plan 2020 to 2036. Hell of a long time for an action plan. The members mind, would members mind if we hold this until Councillor Bradley comes on the call to see if he comes on the call, and then we can go to the budget item next, if that's okay with everyone?
Sounds a very sensible idea, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Alistair, excellent. I like making progress, as you know. We'll put that on hold, so we'll go to item 5, which is the draft budget statement for 2021, which is my item. If you just bear with me 1 second, I shall open the report. Okay, so basically the members will see that the position set out in the papers outlines the financial position that we face as a council, and how we intend to deal with the deficit that we face currently. And the report gives us an overview of where that funding is going to come from in the future, how we intend to bridge the gap, and the measures we're taking to continue to raise our own income, as well as bring in more efficiencies into the council. So what I'd like members to do, if possible, is just refer you to, before we go into any issues on run council tax, if we just go down to, as I'm trying to find it on my agenda, if we go to the page or paragraph 26 on page 13, agenda page 13, paragraph 26, what that sets out is the budget deficit as it stands. So you can see there, table 1 outlines our sources of revenue, such as council tax, business rates, new homes bonus. It also then outlines our expenditure, and you can see there that we've got a deficit for this year of 908,000. That goes up to 3.2 million next year, and then 4.3 the year after. So that sets the level of the challenge, as it were. And what the report then does is seek to identify how we can balance that budget. So again, if we go down onto page 14, we see there how a number of measures are being taken through shared services to make efficiency savings, and then also the income generation. So as I say, it's double-edged. It's making efficiencies and also increasing our income. So you can see there the figures for increasing income with the Market Walk extension, Primrose, Strawberry Fields, and the logistics house sites. And then it gives us a revised deficit, which you can see now is reduced, but still leaves us substantial savings to be made in addition to that. So again, if we just scroll down a little further, I'll come back to the investments in a moment. If we go down to page 19, you can see there the plan to actually balance the budget and how we intend to make up that gap, which is again a combination of raising income. So that's the council tax increase, a proposed increase of 2%, parking income, and then the income from investment sites, in addition then to future savings, efficiency savings, and we've identified some contracts where we can make savings. We've identified some efficiencies in the provision of service where we can make savings, and therefore that leads us to a position where we balance the budget, not just for this year, but for the next 3 years, which is obviously where we need to be as a council. While we balance that budget, we need to also ensure that we can stick to our key programmes. And I apologise for jumping about in the report, but if we go back up to the pages, back up to the bottom of page 15, as it were, we have the nice colour breakdown of some of our investments, and that's in the corporate priorities that we set out in November. And then below that we have some of the other investments that again we're doing as this year's budget in terms of the capital and capital investment and revenue as well. So our plan, which is to continue to invest in the major schemes, whether that's Westway Sports Village, Tatton Community Centre, into the future housing allocation, we're committed to all those schemes. We're committed to extending further on the green agenda, as we approved £500,000 in the last budget that is being delivered. We're committed to increasing our employment opportunities, such as investment in Olker Lane, and these are significant sums, as it says there, on the future capital investments, such as the Whittle Health Hub, £4 million, Tatton 15 million, Olker Lane 9.2. So these are significant investments. So what I'm particularly pleased with in proposing this budget is the fact that while we've managed to meet that really, really tough challenge of making those savings and dealing with that budget deficit, we're still keeping up with our exciting plans for investing into health, investing into well-being, investing into housing, investing into the green agenda. And this council continues to do more for its residents year on year, and that's the good thing. So it is a story of success. It's a story of actual continued improvement, in my view, but it's always challenging, and that's why we take the decision on council tax. And it's never an easy decision, if that's what we take after the consultation, but that's what we're proposing to take. But it does explain in the report, and again, members, I apologise for flipping about, as it were, but if we go back up to page, he says when he's lost his cursor, page 9, in paragraph 15 there, it sets out two things about council tax. One is obviously we've mentioned the importance of bridging the budget deficit, but the second element is when the government comes to the settlements and looks at what we need, they don't base that on what we actually say we need. They base that on how much revenue we can raise in their judgment. And in their judgment, that includes an increase in council tax. So if we don't, we have to be prepared to take the hit of not only not getting the money now, but when they do the settlements in the future, they will say, well, you could have increased your council tax by X over these last number of years, so we're only giving you X million pound or whatever it will be. So we have to factor that in as well. And that's why we take the decision to increase council tax as part of this package. Not easy, but I think at this time, unfortunately, necessary. But as I say, that small increase for residents, I still think brings huge rewards in terms of keeping the services going that we provide on a daily basis, but also keeping those exciting key projects moving forward in the future. So on that, I will say no more. I've probably already said enough, and I will open it up to questions. I can see that Roy's got his hand up, so I will take Roy first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can you just explain to me what, or just give me the figure of 2%? What would it mean to the average council tax in monetary terms in Chorley?
Yeah, on a band
It's nothing, is it?
on a band D, I think it's sort of, is it 11p a week or something like that? It works out, it's about £5 a year.
Yeah, so even though we're looking at 2% and people say 2% a lot, the actual figure that we're paying is neither here nor there. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's fair when you look at it in terms of the overall bill. It's important to put it in its monetary term, and it is limited.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Roy. Next I've got is Danny and then Adrian. So Danny first, please.
Thanks, Chair. Basically, I'm happy with the 2%. I have no problem with that one. I just want to ask another question, and it's on parking charges, and it's on page 20, paragraph 48. Very short paragraph there saying, and I do understand it. It's there's no way we can increase charges at the moment, but I really do think that in the near future we're going to have to either increase the charges or get rid of the 3-hour free parking, because I think that's been abused. At the moment, it's not abused because it's a problem we can't get away from. But I think in the future, once the people come back to Chorley, which they will, we are going to have to really seriously look at the charges in Chorley, and whether we like it or not, we're going to have to increase it. So
thanks for
that.
I mean, thanks for that, Daniel. I would just add something. It does, as you say, it says in that paragraph about the need to increase if we do that, but that only comes with a new parking strategy, which is part of, as you say, Danny, it's looking at A, where the car parks are, B, where's short stay, where's long stay, and as you just said, what is long stay, what is short stay, the 3-hour limit, the whole thing, so the whole thing has to be reviewed as part of that. And again, that key line at the bottom is, and only if it's not going to be detrimental to the town centre, if we think we're really struggling, and this would sort of have a major impact, we don't do it. If we think it can be absorbed, then, then we do. Adrian, next.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of just a couple of observations, if I may, in terms of, I think you're quite right to point out the highlighted part of paragraph 15 with the consequence of the hit that we would be facing if we were to freeze council tax. Another, in effect, government whammy on that. I just want an observation on paragraph 29, where I think it's key to point out that funding has fallen from, and this is quite a key point, from 17 million to an estimated 11.1 million by 23-24. So that brings in effect the context of the proposals in front of us, which is the basis for consultation. That's the recommendation we're asked to make. In terms of, I think it's important, and I note that I believe the County Council are holding fire with the proposals until their consultation in effect has ended, because the original proposals was, I think, 4.99%, but it might have something to do with a possible event taking place on May the 6th. If I was to be cynical, Chair. But just the final observation, if I've read the figures right, we seem to be in a relatively okay position in effect by the end of year 1, but that is taken into account if we do increase council tax by 1.99%. I think members just need to bear in mind, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Chair, is terms of in years 2 and 3, as you've pointed out, the budget deficit, difficult decisions may have to be taken by a future authority. Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely right, Adrian. I've got Councillor Morwood next, and then Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, to carry on from Adrian, the whole thing is not easy, and we on this, as we sit here, we're glad we're not in your shoes, as it were. You're the one, but it's a terrific job. But I just want to basically, as you say, I don't think the general public are aware, as you point out, that if we don't raise it, it's not as if we gain by the government giving us money. They will punish us, and it would be useful as we do our sort of communicating around the Chorley and so forth, that we kind of couch it in terms like that. We're doing all this investment. We're doing all we can with the money we've got, because we get money from Market Walk, etc. And so we're still able to invest in all these things, which is, I would imagine, a lot more than a lot of local authorities are able to do. But if we can kind of get together some kind of nice communication to the public in that this is what we're doing, we realise it's difficult, but we are going to have no money, and so we need something. And just to go back to Councillor Lee, it's 2% is not a lot for most of us, especially some of us, but for some it will be. Can I just, I think you probably can help to emphasise, we do have still and are putting aside money to help those who will struggle even with the 2%.
Absolutely. Yep. No, I mean, thanks for that, Alistair. And again, all your observations are absolutely, 100% valid and spot on. But yes, the hardship fund is there, and obviously we do assist people anyway with if they have difficulties with paying the council tax. One of the things message we always try and say to people is if you're struggling, let us know sooner rather than later, because the later it gets, the harder it gets, the bigger your debts. If you let us know soon, we can put in alternative arrangements, payment plans, etc. So yes, absolutely right, Alistair. Okay. Support is there. Graham.
Yes, I just wanted to say a couple of things. One was pertaining to the parking charges. I agree with what Danny's saying, but I do think that over the next couple of years, our primary concern needs to be sustaining the high street and sustaining the viability of the companies that pay rent to us and assist the viability of the town. And we mustn't increase parking charges too soon in a way that may damage that particular recovery, because it's going to be a hard couple of years. As soon as we deem we can, we should, but we mustn't do it too early.
No, I totally agree. Sorry, Graham, carry on.
The other thing that concerns me for the future, I'm very happy with the budget as produced for the next couple of years, but thinking forward, one of the things that could happen is a rise in interest rates, and we do have borrowings. And I wondered about what stress testing we are undertaking, looking at our susceptibility to any increase in interest rates prior to our ability to raise rents.
Okay, at that point, Gary's had his hand up for a short while. I think it'll be a perfect time to bring him in. Gary. Is he there? Silence reigns.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Chair. Yeah. I'll pick up the borrowing point first, and then just a couple of other clarification points. In relation to the stress testing, we take a decision when we do borrow as to whether it's more advantageous to fix the rate or to have a variable rate. Interest rates reached an all-time low over the last 12 months. So any borrowing we have done in recent times, and they've continued to fall, has all been at fixed rates. So we're not at the mercy of an increase in any of those rates. And that's part of the judgment we make at that point. Just in relation to a couple of other things that have been discussed, Councillor Morwood made the point about the government not giving us money if we don't put council tax up. It's actually a bit more perverse than that. They actually make the reduction assuming you put it up. So actually they take the money away from you.
Absolutely.
And just in terms of the hardship discussion, just to remind members that I think we're probably one of only 2 councils in Lancashire that doesn't have a council tax support scheme. And if you remember, I'll have to describe that because that sounds like you're giving council tax support. It's the charge that was made to people who previously did not pay council tax. And we used to have a charge of 7.5% of your council tax bill. You did remove that.
Yeah, good point that, Gary, actually. Very good point. Thanks. Steve was next on the list.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering if there's a problem with the raised hand function, because Councillor Walker doesn't seem to have raised his hand, and I would have thought he might have a view on this. I'm just wondering if
invite him.
I'm being a
I'm
non-political mayor
sure
and
if
everything.
Councillor Walker wanted to speak, he would be at the forefront of doing so and raising his hand. But he has done now, so I'll let him come in. Come on, John. Come on, John.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to ask questions tonight. Next Thursday evening is the scrutiny meeting where the budget will be discussed, and I will put my questions to Councillor Wilson next Thursday evening.
And as always, I look forward to it.
Well, exactly. We have a very pleasant evening.
We do. We always have a good conversation.
Yes. So that's why I'm keeping quiet tonight. Thank you.
Nice answer. Nice answer.
Very good. Right, moving on. Are there any other questions or points that members wish to raise before we decide to go out to consultation on this budget proposal? Can't see any hands. Right, excellent. In that case, we need to ask for approval, don't we? So I proposed it. Would someone like to second?
Seconded, Chair.
Thanks, Adrian. My word, we're all jumped in then. Lovely. And I presume again everyone's in favour of that, unless it's again I'll take it. Is anyone against it? Silence reigns. Brilliant. Thank you. Now the next item, still Alice's item, he's still not on the call, is he?
He is.
Oh, he's here. What a man of the moment. Oh, he saved me bacon now. I thought I was going to have to try and, read your
I'm here in the car park in Birch Services, listening to you intently, Peter.
Well,
turn the light on.
Where else would you rather be than Birch Services on a Thursday night?
But it's just started raining here. It has just started raining here, so I'm now very worried about Asim and the Happy Pumping Gang down at Ackhurst Lodge.
Quite.
So I was hoping it was going to be dry weather when I got back to this side of the Pennines, but I'm very worried now. But anyway, we'll see where we get to.
Alice, are you in a position to do your report? Or...
I will do my report. Yeah, I'll do it now if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, carry on.
1 minute. Just while I get my papers up. 1 second.
Yeah.
Right, this is the Chorley Open Space Sports and Recreation Strategy Action Plan for 2020-2036. The purpose of the report, as it says, is to grant approval to consult on the draft Open Space Sports and Recreation Strategy, OSSR. I'll refer to it from now on because it's a very long title, and the action plan that's part of that. And then if there are, the recommendation is that if there is no significant amendments to that plan following the consultation, that power is delegated to myself to adopt the final version of the plan with no significant alterations. Members, I think this report has been previously to this meeting and has certainly been to the local plan working group and other places, because as it says in the executive summary of the report, this has been in preparation for quite a while as part of the local plan working group that we're doing with South Ribble and Preston. Knight, Kavanagh and Page, who are the consultants who specialise in this area, were commissioned by the three councils to produce an evidence report detailing both the need for open space sports and recreation provision, and also to assess current levels of provision that we have within the borough. And that was also to meet the future demands through to 2036, which is obviously a very long way in the future, and to try to predict where we've got shortfalls of both play and open space, or perhaps surpluses of that. It says a suite of evidence documents. I'll run through those shortly. Were produced by those people for district and central Lancashire level, because obviously some of the things cover a larger footprint than just Chorley. And they took input from sports clubs, sports teams, lots of parish councils, and I know many parish council lawyers were involved, all kinds of national governing bodies, etc. And therefore there is extensive evidence in the reports that have come forward as part of this assessment to be consulted upon. It's proposed now to go back out to those key stakeholders, so particularly sports clubs, sports teams, landowners, parish councils, etc., to make sure that they're content with the content of this plan, to make sure that they haven't got any other comments, and also because of obviously COVID, there has been a change in how many of these organisations are operating, and we need to assess whether the evidence base is still relevant. The timescale is proposed to be done over the next few months, and therefore to come back and be adopted to be in place shortly. I think before the elections, I think was the intention, but anyway, I don't know if that's going to be affected by COVID. The background obviously is detailed in quite some detail. obviously there's different reports that comprise the overall assessment, in particular the play pitch strategy, the PPS assessment report, particularly focused obviously on organised sports like football, hockey, cricket, etc. Bowls, which is obviously always quite a contentious point in Chorley, and others, and has made recommendations about future actions and investment, which we can then link to planning developments that come forward and contributions, etc. There is obviously an open space assessment report that covers things like parks and gardens and natural open space, like the moorlands we've particularly got in Chorley, and places like Hillingham, etc. But also covers allotments, cemeteries and green corridors that obviously members will be well aware of. There are all kinds of other strategies and plans that we've consulted and tried to link into. And the idea is to help develop that strategy moving forward about assessing where we've got surplus of certain types of usage and shortfalls on others. Obviously, it details in paragraphs 26 to 29 about using SIL and Section 106 monies to help redress some of those shortfalls. And that's why we've seen some developments come forward in Chorley previously linked to provision of both formal and informal council leads before you start mentioning it, recreation space, and we all know that there are issues that come forward with that and associated with that. Obviously, it's all linked to the local plan. The assessment, as I said before, is to take a consultation over a 4-week period in February. It'll take longer if it's needed, again, if it's COVID impacted, because what we want to try and do is make sure that everybody is content with the contents of this plan. And upon completion, when it comes back, which was going to be towards Easter time, to adopt this and get it as built in as part of our local plan evidence base and our local plan strategy. And aside from that, the full report is attached for members to read in the consultation draft. I think it's all stuff that people have seen before. It's an update on what we've done before. And on that basis, Chair, I'm happy to recommend it as the recommendation stated or take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Alistair. Any questions there for Alistair on that item? Stephen?
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted with this document and delighted that it's so wide-ranging. Particularly like the inclusion of wildlife corridors, and I think it's really important that in modern society, you know, even in urban situations, we're able to try and ensure that we can live tooth by jowl with nature. I think it brings something to our sense of humanity. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Steve. Alistair, you got anything to add?
No, Roy's got his hand up, so I'm just hoping he's not going to ask me about car parking on Gillibrand or motorbikes.
He has indeed. Roy, the floor is yours. Make sure you ask about car parking and motorbikes.
Right, no, I'll not ask about car parking because I know you're going to address it, Alistair, and we should get... No, the thing is, I know that Gillibrand, it's been classed as good on the report, as opposed to some others, which haven't got changing rooms, but I think we should... When we're looking at play facilities, we should, on football fields, we should look at the overall thing of how we're going to provide car parking for these different places. It should be part of the overall scheme. That's my point. Thank you.
Noted and agreed, Roy. Noted and agreed, because It looks like a good idea on a plan, but as you know, living with it and the actuality is something quite different. And I think we've all learned some lessons from some of the stuff we've done previously. Okay.
Adrian's got his hand up next, so I'll bring him in.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I was slightly cynically minded to raise the issue of bowling greens, I'll resist that because that's just obviously being dealt with. But in terms of a more serious point, Chair, I think it's a very comprehensive document that's going out for consultation. As Alistair has mentioned, it's already some initial work has been started and there's been some, in effect, informal consultation. the certainly the proposals on pages 30 to 32, for instance, in terms of a welcome, the issues with regard to particularly woodland management, and also the expansion of green corridors, and in effect the expansion of wildflower meadows, etc., and how it relates particularly to the strategic objectives that we've set ourselves in terms of particularly increased tree planting. So welcome the report, Chair.
Thanks, Adrian.
Just to come back on that, Peter, very briefly. I just encourage all members, if they are, obviously many members wear many hats, so if they are members of organisations, sports clubs or parish councils, etc., please get them to consult, and even if they say we're happy with everything, it'd be really good to know, because obviously there's a lot of work gone into this report, and we do like to get the feedback of what people think, even if it is that everything's okay. Obviously we tend to take silence as acceptance, but then a couple of years later, then it comes out that there's a problem with it. We're better off to know now, because then we can make the changes and get that built into the strategy. All right.
Great. Thanks for that. I not got anyone else with a hand up at the moment. Just one last opportunity. No one wants to raise anything else? No, we're all happy. In that case, Alistair has proposed the report. I'm happy to second the recommendations in paragraph 2 and 3. Again, I'll do it by default. Is there anyone against? Raise your hand, speak out. No, that's fine. In that case, I'll take it that we're all in favour of the proposal. Thank you very much. That's done. We've done the budget, so we can go straight down to item 6, which is the exclusion of the press and the public. Again, I'll propose that. Can we have a seconder, please?
Yes, seconded.
Thank you. In that case, can we stop recording, please, ICT?